faith, then he can steal your eternal destination. This thing is, it really is a mind game. It really is a war of the mind. Good afternoon to everyone. Happy Tuesday to you. Welcome to each one of you as you are hopping on. Welcome to Donna. Welcome, Leah. Just a quick note, and I'll try to remember to announce this at the end, but it's pretty obvious. We will be together today and tomorrow, and then of course Thursday is Thanksgiving, and Friday is the day after Thanksgiving, so we won't be together on Thursday or Friday of this week, and then we will resume on next Tuesday. So today and tomorrow for this week. But I'm always grateful for you all being on here. And I pray that you're continuing to be blessed where the Word of God is concerned, and that you're receiving and understanding. And of course, that you are applying it. All right. Welcome, Thomas. Good to have you, sir. We are on... what are we on? We are on lesson 13. Lesson 13, I hate evil. I'm going to take just a minute to review a little bit from actually a week and a half ago. We weren't together at all last week. And thank you guys for your prayers for my wife. Things are going well, and she is doing well. So, let's get it regarding today's lesson. A week and a half ago Friday, we started talking about I hate evil. I think that was the second session of that one. I hate evil. And we basically said this. We said we face daily struggles. All of us face daily struggles. Again, you know, one of the key things that I always like to talk about when we talk about facing struggles, facing warfare, facing temptation, is the fact that many times our minds go directly to moral issues. And moral issues, the not doing certain things in reference to morality. Moral issues are absolutely positively included. But it's not only moral issues that we're tempted with. We're tempted to say things we shouldn't say. We're tempted to believe things we shouldn't believe. And then, of course, we're tempted in behaviors that we should not be carrying out. So it's not just behavior, but it can be in how we're thinking. The enemy will tempt us, and in how we're talking, the enemy will tempt us. So as I'm talking about warfare and I'm talking about the struggles that we all deal with, please be all inclusive when you are assessing yourself and looking at your life. And as we talk about temptations, think about how the enemy tries to tempt you mentally, verbally, tries to tempt you as well as physically and behaviorally. All right. We said this, we talked about, we asked the question, who is our enemy? I'm not going to read Matthew 4, but we do understand that we have, each and every one of us, we all have an enemy. When we drew the line in the sand by being born again and following Jesus Christ, we drew a line in the sand, and we now have an adversary. We have an enemy that most definitely desires to steal, kill, and destroy you. Steal, kill, and or destroy you, right? And so this enemy we know is Satan, but we also understand that this enemy is composed not only of Satan, because Satan is one fallen angel. He can only be at one place at one time, but it's composed of an entire kingdom, an entire army of demonic angels or demons, right? Fallen angels, they're demons. So he has his own kingdom, his own army. Regardless of what people think about the enemy, he's very structured and very organized. So I would say this, I would be as bold to say this, that there are familiar spirits. This familiar spirits are spirits that are familiar with you. They know you. They have followed you around, and in many cases, all of us probably in one time or another have been tormented by them. But these are spirits that have an assignment. They have an assignment in your life, right? That's why we're talking about I hate evil. They have an assignment in your life. Usually, and I would probably say most, it's pretty much across the board, all of us have a spirit or several spirits that have been assigned to us. Now, know on the positive side that you have angels assigned to you. You have angels assigned to you. But then, of course, the enemy is a counterfeiter, so he's going to do what he knows God does, and he's going to assign spirits to you. Now, these spirits, because they're assigned to you, does not mean they have authority over you. Before you were born again, you know what? They just ran us ragged. They had us believing, doing, speaking, however they were trying to lead us to do. All right. But now that you're born again, they have no dominion over you, yet they are still assigned to you to try to deceive / persuade you to do what you used to do, to behave how you used to behave, which is sinful. And I say you, mean all of us, to talk how we used to talk. Here is the first thing, though, and the grand thing that controls everything else, to think how you used to think. It could be a spirit of fear. Some people deal with the spirit of fear. Some people deal with spirits of lust. Some people deal with spirits of jealousy and envy. There are strong men, is what the Bible calls it. Strong men, spirits that are assigned to all of us. And if you look back at your life, you probably can say, you know what? If I look back at my life, this is an area that I've always been challenged in. And or not only challenged, but that I have been defeated in. This is one or two areas that I seem to always have been defeated in the past. One or two areas that in my old way of being, my old life, that was how I functioned. I was a person, I was very fearful. I was controlled by lust, et cetera, all right? So I just wanted to kind of give you a little background. We understand that we have an enemy. I know I went into a lot of detail there, but you have an enemy and you still have an enemy, but now you have the power to overcome that enemy, right? You have been given power. Now, we also said this, who is not our enemy? Well, God is not your enemy, but I am going to read this scripture. James chapter 1, verse 13. And remember, when you are being tempted, do not say, God is tempting me. It goes on and says, God is never tempted to do wrong, and God never tempts anyone else. So temptations don't come from God. Now, tests come from God. Tests come from God, but not temptations. And what is the difference, you may say? Listen, God will test us to obey him, right? The enemy will tempt us to do wrong. In other words, there may be something that God tells you to do, and he's testing your faith. But the enemy will tempt us to sin. He's going to tempt us to sin. So when I'm talking about temptations, we're again talking about the temptation to do sinful things. Thought, words, deeds. Thoughts, words, deeds. All right? So, what is the bait? We covered this. This is the last one. Then we got one scripture for today. What is the bait? What is the bait that the enemy uses to get us, to tempt us to do what he is trying to have us do? What is the bait? James chapter 1, verse 14. Listen to the bait. The bait, not debate, the bait. James 1:14. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. Temptation comes from our own desires. From our own desires. Now, listen to this, y'all. Where did the desires come from? If temptation comes from our own desires, and our own desires entice us, and our own desires drag us away in order to commit sin, thought, word, or deed, where does it come from? Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you where the desires came from. The desires came from the enemy. But let me tell you when the desires came, because this is equally as important. We know it comes from the enemy, but those desires that we deal with came when? They come for a couple different ways. Some of those desires come hereditarily, or as the Bible calls it, generationally, right? Generationally, they may have come from a father, a mother, a grandfather, a grandmother, down, 3 or 4 generations, that these unholy desires can come upon us, right? So that's one place the desires can come. It can literally come simply through generational lineage, that it continues to flow into your life. You were born that way. This is why I think people don't understand, and I don't want to, I won't even make it complex. This is why there are people that can be born with the propensity to drink, right? Well, as babies, no, they're not going to drink alcohol, but it's just something that naturally, or we can call it, and from a negative side, supernaturally came upon them. They have that type of it's just a desire. Let's just call it that. It's a desire. Then there are some people that they may have a desire for other things, right? So it can come generationally. That's number one. Number two, the desires can come from things that have happened in our lives, trauma that's happened in our lives. Really unfortunate events that have happened in our lives, things that people may have done to us, those desires come from that. A lot of times molestation is one that comes to mind, where through molestation that opens the doors to all kinds of ungodly desires. And that's very unfortunate, right? That someone would do that to a child. But my point is that these desires come from the enemy, but they also, that's the source, but they also come at a very early age. As a child, these things the enemy is working on us as children. That's how much of a horrible rat he is. He starts working on us as children. That's why as parents, we have to be praying over our children. As parents, we have to combat what the enemy is trying to do that we may not even see him doing. We have to combat that with the word of God as they're growing up, because as they're little and then they're growing up, they have time away from mom and dad. And so there are influences that the enemy uses, whether it could be peers, it could be other people, again, generationally, trauma. It can come from other peers. And nowadays, woo, I mean, anybody, let me see, 1990. I would say anybody born after 1990 That's challenging because that moved into the era of technology, right? You know, those of us who was born, I was born in 1970, right? I'm born in 1970. So, you know, we didn't really deal with as much, although, you know, once we got into maybe the 80s, you know, you had cable TV and you had all of that stuff coming out, which exposed us to things. But now, you know, our young people have it in their hand. They have that device in their hand. And man, it's just so much. It's so much that could be brought into their life due to what's in this world. I mean, just by pushing some buttons. I mean, they can be, all kind of stuff can come their way. Social media and all the other stuff that come, pornography, all that stuff, right? So anyway, again, the point, here's the point. The desires that we deal with that the enemy uses to tempt us, he starts working on us very early, generationally, through trauma, and also through the influences of peers and technology. All right. Now, here is some good news, though. Again, you have victory over those temptations. Remember, we're talking about temptations, not just moral temptations, but we're talking about tempted to think wrong, tempted to handle situations incorrectly, tempted to talk wrong and speak death, and tear down things, tear down ourselves and other people. We're talking about those temptations. 1 Corinthians 10:13, here's our scripture for today, and we're finished. The temptations in your life, 1 Corinthians 10:13, the temptations in your life, listen to this, are no different from what others experience. So all of us, I don't care who you can be in the nursing field, you can be in the business field, you can be in whatever field, you can be a pastor, you can be whatever you are. It does not matter what you do in life. All of us are tempted. Every one of us are tempted. Man, woman, black, white, doesn't matter. All of us are tempted, and all of us experience some of the same temptations. The temptations in your life are no different from what others experience. 1 Corinthians 10:13 goes on and says, and God is faithful. Now listen to how faithful God is, y'all. And God is faithful. God himself, will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. In other words, there is no temptation that you will ever face in how you think and how you talk and how you behave. There is no temptation that you will ever face that you cannot handle personally. None. God will not allow a temptation in your life that is too much for you. Right? So in other words, he says this. In other words, he says, now, I've set things up. I don't put temptations on you, but because I'm sovereign, that then the enemy and the way that this thing is set up and the world is sinful and this world belongs to the enemy, its system, the enemy can still tempt you. But God says this, I will not allow, I'm God, I'm sovereign over everything. Even Satan and the demons can only go so far in your life. God says, I will not allow them to tempt you beyond what you can stand or withstand, right? In other words, they cannot go beyond what you are able to overcome. So what does that tell us? That tells us that we already have the victory. He says, the only thing that can tempt you is what you can overcome. So you already have the victory. Whatever comes your way, doesn't matter what it is. If it comes your way, you already have the power to overcome it. So that takes away that excuse. That takes away that excuse. There's no excuse. Anything that we're tempted with, he says, that can only come by way of you already being able to have victory over it. In other words, I will not allow anything to come your way that you cannot handle. It finishes up. This scripture finishes up. It says, when you are tempted, listen to this, he will show you a way out so that you can endure. So even though, number one, the temptation is allowed, it's only allowed because you can handle it. And then he says, and because you can handle it, I've also given you a way out. Somebody, I saw it real quick. Somebody said real quick, just no many times. That's the way out. Just saying no. That's the way out, right? It's saying no. It's our choice. It's still, see, a lot of it all comes back to our choices. It all comes back to our choices. When the temptation comes, and again, I even think of it anyway. It comes back to our choices. Every area of life comes back to our choices. If you're tempted, you have the power to overcome it. You can say no. It might be a situation where you may have to remove a person out of your life. Can't be, husband, wife, nobody like that. But you may have to just block off somebody. It may be a situation where you just leave. I think about who is it? Joseph. Joseph got out of there. He ran when Potiphar's wife tried to have intimate relations with him. Right? He just ran out of there. He got out of there. See, there's always a way out. There's always a way out when we're being tempted. So that's the good news. The bad news is the temptations are going to last as long as you're breathing. The good news is that you don't have to be overcome by them. You have the power. You have the victory. God is on your side. You can make a choice to say, no, I'm not going to think that way anymore. And now I'm going to fill my mind with how I should think. You have the choice to say, I'm not going to talk that way to my friends or family anymore. I'm not doing it. You have the choice. You have the choice to say, I'm not going to behave or live in this lifestyle anymore. You have the choice, right? So ultimately, it's our choice now. God has removed all the excuses, and he says, now you have to walk in the authority and the obedience of choosing God over your own desires. All right? All right. I love you all. That's it for today. We will be back tomorrow, and we're going to pick up a little bit more on I Hate Evil on tomorrow. All right? Remember, tomorrow will be our last day for this week. God bless you. Love you. Bye-bye.